And now something very exciting is coming. So finally we have the results of our sexual health survey, and we will have also a workshop. And let me welcome Zoia Razumova and Kathrin Kirchheiner. You have known them very well. Zoia is from the Karolinska Institute, Stockholm, and you know that she is the EEG member. And last year we listened Kathrin about sexual health, which was a really great presentation and talk. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not quite sure that I could see slides on my laptop. Should be though.
Is this?
No. Oh, good. Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zoia Razumova, and today, together with Kathrin Kirchheiner, we will cover a bit this really sensitive topic, and we'll discuss the details a bit later. But I'm going to present you first preliminary results of yours and our survey, and it was a collaborative work between ENYGO, which is a young network of gynecologists, and also ENGAGE. That is really preliminary results because we collect more things that are coming, but I'll start first, and after that our Kathrin will continue with, let's say, didactic lecture. So the survey that I'm talking about today, it's an ENYGO-ENGAGE survey on sexual health. It was launched in October 2021 during this congress that was in Prague. And a bit of facts about this survey. It was developed together with you. We did have patient representatives together with Ito and Kim and Maria, who were helping us to adjust questions and make them look more friendly for you, and not to be too medical. It was also developed together with Kathrin, who is a professional psycho-oncologist. So they are like right, let's say. And it was also translated into 10 languages. I'm really proud of all of you. Patients who helped to translate it, also medical doctors, medical doctors who were helping to correct it from a medical point of view. And then there were different languages. We were not so successful with all of them, but I think it was really good. And the questionnaire, since I think many of you, or I hope that many of you, actually filled it in, you're pretty familiar with the structure, but there are three blocks. There were three blocks. First, like a general information, or as we say in medicine, demographical data. So it was basically age, and like which country do you come from, did you have, etc., or have still. The second part was self-created questions that we did ourselves together with you and with Kathrin. So we basically asked what we wanted to ask and what is important for you. And the third thing, since we want to address this issue to the medical community and not just to so we had to use a validated questionnaire for that. There are several of them, but we decided that this so-called FSFR is the best one. So you also answered to those standardized questions, which were not so fun as the previous ones, but even though. Yeah, and what about results? Out of 1,223 answers. But unfortunately, since we work for you, for ENGAGE, and ENGAGE is an association that represents gynae cancers, which does not include breast cancer and also some other forms of cancer. So, for example, a patient with a Lynch syndrome, that first patients. We didn't also include other answers, like, for example, the ones that were not complete, because we needed like a complete data in order to analyze it. So at the end, we had 609 questions that we are able to analyze and to proceed further, and that's really good, I must say. So thank you. Thank you. Here you could see countries, or the map of the countries that patients from those countries answered our questionnaire, and you see like Europe is pretty big. Trace answered our questionnaire, and you see, like, Europe is pretty big. It also includes New Zealand, as you could see. Really impressive. A huge thanks go to ESGO. We got like around, I don't know, preliminary, like 300, let's say, answers from Hungary. So, and it's not such a huge country with all my respect. So, and it's not such a huge country with all my respect, so, but yeah, so it's really networks that helped us to collect. So it's good, but it will not influence the data analysis. So we will also do a sub-analysis for Hungary. What about cancer types? Even though we know that endometrial cancer, uterine cancer is the most common type of cancer, or gynaecological cancer, yeah, actually, the majority of patients who answered this questionnaire had cervical cancer, ovarian cancer. There might be different reasons for that, and we'll discuss it further. Yeah, and what about like sexual counseling, sexual health counseling itself? So as you see, this tiny blue thing is actually the number of patients who were rather asked about sexuality or were offered sexual counseling, like a proper one. And that's like a real about that, whether they want to get sexual counseling. 60% of them answered yes. So it means that there is a need. We should like address this issue. Here you could see how like the patient would like to get information about sexuality or sexual health, and then to talk with a doctor. Yeah, need to learn from that, understand. But also impressive and really important for ENGAGE is that people really want to get it from brochures, and there are 37%, almost 40%, and it means that your project on brochures is really needed and valuable. You could scan this QR code, but I'm pretty sure that all of you is familiar with those brochures. Really recommend to take a look at that, translated into many languages, really brilliant. Yeah, what about, we also ask to whom person would like to talk about sexuality, and that's again like a bit disappointing. And then we also ask, like, it's just a tiny bit of 95 questions that were asked, so you should understand it, it's much more broad. But I want to just like, show you the general picture. So, yeah, and as you could see here, in the majority of cases, sexual life or sexuality and everything that is connected to that became much worse. That is the symptoms. You could see this like 600, let's say. That is the symptoms. You could see this like 600, let's say, cut line. That's the amount of patients that we included in our analysis. And you see that the majority of them had vaginal dryness and like other problems. It's like incredibly horrible. Yeah, and here, look at the numbers. There was also like statistical thing here, but we decided to remove it, not to overload you with statistical boring data, but just like try to look at the numbers. Like for example, before diagnosis and before the treatment, it were just like 83% of patients. It's not fine that like it's 5 times more patients who stopped being sexually active after the treatment. And sexually being sexually active, it's not about just penis and vagina. There are different types of sexual activity. And it means that none of them became interesting, like, stopped to be interesting to you. Really disappointed diagram. You see that yeah, more than half of the patients were somehow dissatisfied or dissatisfied with the sexual life. Yeah, and that was all. It was like super preliminary. We'll get back to you with the information to report to you the results of this study. But based on that, based on like those little things, I'll give word to Kathrin, who's going to talk about like sexual health in general. So welcome, Kathrin.
So thanks a lot, Zoia, for presenting the results, and I'm very happy to be again this year with you again talking about sexuality. Happy to be again this year with you again talking about sexuality. For me, it's important to notice this is much more than talking about sex, and sex is much more than talking about intercourse, having intercourse. Sexual health is, as a topic, it's so much having intercourse. Sexual health is, as a topic, it's so much broader. It affects so many areas of your life. If you have, just in contrary to many other symptoms that can result from cancer or from treatment that might resolve over time, sexual dysfunctions tend during lifetime. So it can really cause not only long-term distress, it can also cause lifetime distress with the topic. And this will have implications, of course. It changes the way how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your body image, how self-confident you are. But of course, sexuality, also the emotional closeness to your partner, intimacy issues, and so on. So it can, on the long run, also change the whole family dynamics, and that's why it's so important to talk about it. And when we do compare prostate cancer patients to gynaecological patients, for prostate cancer, erectile dysfunction is the #1 topic that is a major endpoint in all the clinical studies. It's the one side effect that is nearly always discussed with male patients. But if we look at gynae cancer patients, sexual health is rarely discussed. And this has been also shown in many studies. It's nearly half of the female patients are offered any discussion about sexual health. And that is a problem. So overall, we know that there is a big reluctance coming from both. So from the patients on the other side, you will also feel sometimes uncomfortable talking to certain doctors about the topic, especially if you have the feeling that the doctor cannot handle the topic, or you have the feeling my doctor might be uncomfortable, so this is embarrassing, so come and raise the topic. But the doctors are, on the other hand, also reluctant because they think, I don't want to make my patient feel uncomfortable. If this becomes a problem for her, she will likely address the topic. And then you know what happens? No one ever will address the topic. And this builds this big wall like ice in the middle between of you, like a great wall. And of course, if you ask the doctor, some also just admit, listen, I do not have time for this, or I have no skills, or I don't know how to address it. I don't know how to solve the problems. So why is it so difficult? It is a difficult problem because female sexuality is very multifaceted. This is just, if you look at male libido, for example, in a patient with normal testosterone levels, of course, it's more like an on-off switch. It can be very straightforward. If you look at female libido, on the other hand, it can be a whole bunch of wires that need to get connected in the right way. So, of course, talking about female sexual health, we do not have this magic bullet approach. Like, we have no blue pills, As a doctor, we cannot just prescribe the blue pills, problem solved, thanks, you're all happy, everything works again. Female sexual health is sometimes quite complicated to address. It needs some expertise on the one hand, and on the other hand, also for you, and you of course know this, you would also like to take the pink pill and, magically everything works, libido comes back and so on. But you all time out of your day to make some exercises, I don't know. It takes time and effort, and this also, of course, makes it quite complicated. So we have two options here. We can just put our head in the sand and say, well, okay, we are all grateful to sex, so this chapter is kind of over or whatever. Or you can be happy to be alive, but you can also acknowledge that you deserve to get back to a happy and healthy sexual life, because you deserve it. It's a sign of vibrancy, vitality, life energy, and so on. So let's go for the way of empowerment here, for a new way, because of course there are many problems, but there are also a lot of solutions available, and if you were present last year during the sexual health workshop, you probably know that I have a lot of solutions and a lot of suggestions on what to do here. So we need a double approach. The patients, you need some information. You need empowerment to also confront your doctors and ask for help, ask for advice. You need resources, because there is plenty of help available. There are also plenty of let's say, additional resources available for you, but we need to connect you. And on the other hand, we also have to support the doctors who need some training, some awareness, some acknowledgement, resources to know where to refer. You know, you need some sexual health specialists also in the background. So I think we really need to work together in this topic, and I think that's a bit why I wanted this workshop under the motto, let's break the ice together. Because I know we might group and regroup a little bit, also you, Murat. Oh yes, and before I forget, that's a very first step. I'm also extremely thankful under this umbrella of ENGAGE, ESGO, ENYGO, that we were able last year to publish the first booklet on overcoming problems with the libido. And I think this closed a little bit the gap, because the libido problem is not very straightforward. It's also complicated, of course. And I checked the website. Right now it's available in 9 languages, so the translations are awesome, and I really hope that we can distribute this as a very first step. And I would also like to thank you. Many people were involved into this little project, and I'm very happy that we finalized it successfully. So for this workshop now, let's work together. So discuss, share our ideas. For me, it's important that this is a safe space here in this room. So I would really like to also ensure confidentiality. I think for the doctors that's pretty state of the art, right? But also among us, that we can really free also about own experiences, that you also feel safe here to share. That's important for me. And I prepared 3 different topics. So I will just go through then with some handouts, but quickly introduce the topics. So 2 topics for you, for the patients. And I'm sorry, I cannot see my slides here, so I'm doing this by heart now.
Can we have the microphone?
Yes, do you have, yeah.
Thank you.
Around with the microphone and with the handouts, makes it easier. So first handouts to the first tables is about your perspectives and wishes. So how would you like your doctors to approach sexual health issues in general? What would be your wishes with your suggestion? What is, in your opinion, the best time point to start these conversations? And also an interesting question, should the doctors take into consideration your age, your gender, maybe religious aspects, maybe cultural aspects, or should it be more broad? And if so, how? You know, it's really up for debate. What are the do's and don'ts in these conversations? What is, you know, encouraging you to open up on this sensitive topic, and what is like, uh-oh, this doctor is not sensitive topic, and what is like, uh-oh, this doctor is not going to hear anything from me. So what makes you feel comfortable, and on the other hand also uncomfortable, to talk with your doctor about this topic? So that would be number one. Eva, could you just...
So we will need 3 groups, in 3 groups, and each group will have different
exactly.
questions
But
to
maybe
talk about and have some solutions.
We distributed in 3 parts like that, but for me it is just important, so let me just move on to the, now it's stuck a bit. Now it's stuck. Could someone switch this for me? Because I cannot move the slides.
Can we make next slide?
I can't, no. So, I can't, no. So, but that's, oh, now, yeah, second one, please. Yes, exactly. So this is for the doctor's table. Maybe the doctors can all regroup. They are here in the back. Murat is here to regroup. So how would you, how do you address sexual health in your patients, just in general? And what's your favorite opening line? Question to the doctors. How do you open? At which time points do you address the topic? And also the question to you address the topic? And also the question to you, do you also consider in the back of your head age, health status, comorbidities, relationship status if you address the topic? And how is this information guiding your conversation? You will also get some handouts from Eva because she knows how to find you. And also the question to the doctors, what makes you feel comfortable in sexual health conversation and what makes you feel uncomfortable? Because you can also be open. There are situations where the doctors are pretty uncomfortable discussing. And the third task is how to make policy work. So that will be for the third group. How can your patient advocacy group raise awareness for sexual health issues? How can you break the ice within your own community and also within your own country or action points? Also maybe some thoughts about your own social cultural background, what makes it more difficult, or what barriers can you foresee and what facilitators can you foresee in this progress? So these are the 3 tasks, 2 for you and 1 task and out. This is number 3, wonderful. Okay, wonderful. And then please just start the discussion, and in the last 15 minutes, 1 of you per each group will report to all of us your findings and your points. 1 of you per each group will report to all of us your findings and your points.
2 groups for the patients.
Yes. Exactly.
Can you do the 2 groups?
Together, yeah.
So happy to see you and meet you face to face.
Exactly.
Can you do the 2 groups?
Together, yeah.
So happy to see you and meet you face to face.
More. To see you. I would be really happy if you joined the doctor.
I have to be there at 3.
But Kathrin,
Yeah.
so the doctors are separate.
Doctors are separate table. Yes.
So sorry for that.
All good.
He became
all
COVID.
Good. I will. All good. Sure. Hand you this out for the policy. Yeah. Policy. Great. Sorry. No, that's good. Question number 1 remains here. Question number 3 remains there. Exactly. Yes. You have to enlarge a bit. Perfect. Do you supervise a little bit one and I'll do the other? Great. Thanks. group number one. Perfect. Very good. So that's group number one. Perfect. More handouts for you. Thanks. Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Big doctor's table. Great. You have your handouts?
So nice to meet you again.
You have your handouts?
So nice to meet you again.
By the way, I forgot you have 15 minutes. Sorry. gentle countdown to the final minutes, just to close it slowly down.
Are you coming with us to the cooking game? It's always like that, but it's always because it's a short time and you need to put everything together. Okay. But in Prague we had fun. No problem. I just wanted to know if we shall wait for you. No problem. Ale my zde tu zamknąć. Ale my zde tu zamknąć. To připadá to vyštěvené. Já jsem tady byla, byla tady, já tam stěhovala ty kraby, to bylo tak šikovno, byla právě. Ukáže, včera po 5 hodin kupovala. I don't want to stop them. And after they finish, what will happen? They will speak about what they discussed.
Every group has a speaker and will summarize. Because they're in the middle of. I really, I mean, discussions going on each table. It's amazing, but I think, do you want some more time or should we start to present in order to keep the time? Present. Yes. Yes. Okay. So who would like to start with, yeah, you, yes. Yes. Okay. So who would like to start with, yeah, you, yes, you already look perfect. Wonderful. Wait a second. You will get a microphone. You already look perfect. Wonderful. Wait a second. You will get a microphone and you can come here. Maybe you want to go up? Yeah? So.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's.
So.
Yeah, I have still some discussions going. We were also discussing them to the last minute. The continuation, I will present the results of group 3. So we are going in a reverse order, maybe. So our questions were on how to make policy on, and then we come to the already hard point on what exactly, how shall we mention it, how will we define it? Because if you are talking about sexual health, for instance, in certain countries and circles, people more refer to HIV protection, for instance. So we were brainstorming also on the definition, And I think the one with the most common ground was sexual intimacy, if I'm correct. Exchanged, and yeah, what we see in breaking barriers is also that sometimes you need to warm up on the topic. Well, maybe that's also like foreplay. You also sometimes need time, and also your public needs time. Doing workshops was already a bit maybe too fast because nobody showed up. So maybe first to inform people, raise awareness on the topic, inform people, yeah, give more information, and then organize workshops. So that also came up with us in certain examples, so that it's important to collaborate, collaborate between caretakers and patients, but also collaborate between groups for certain messages to give. For instance, we had a nice presentation about menopause and its effects, but yeah, mostly all women are affected by menopause and also by the sexual effects of that. So that could be about menopause and its effects, but yeah, mostly all women are affected by menopause and also by the sexual effects of that. So that could also be information anyway, that how does women sexuality even work for younger people, when you're older, when you have gynecological cancer, but also specify it in some campaigns also specifically on gynecological cancer. So the final idea is to do a...
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for this summary. Thanks a lot of great ideas. So 2024 then, World Sexual Intimacy Day. Very cool. Okay, can I ask the group number 1 to present Maria, the patient's back? That we also have it on the screen? Yes, thanks.
Hello. Issues. I think one of the things is to be clear and basically ask, do you want me to tell you about the changes in your body and what that might have bring in your sexual health? So, and by health. So, and by the patient either says yes, and they start the explanation. If says no, then he continues and say, I'm here for you. Whenever you're ready to talk about that, I'm here. And the other thing is, we had a question, which doctor? It is the gynecologist, is the psychologist, is the general gynecologist that probably you have still, who is the one who should talk about that? Or a sexologist, talk about that. Or a sexologist. And the other thing is that a doctor should know his limitations. If the doctor cannot talk about that, he should refer the person to somebody who does. And working together is very good for doctors too. They made a point that it's not about sexual life or sexual activity, sexual health, because make assumptions is not good. It's one of the don'ts. Do not make assumptions. The do's is to be respectful. Time, like for, if whenever the patient is ready for that. Mood, what in the mood, to be respectful of the mood of your patient, and how much she wants to know. You have to see those clear. He has to be empathetic, and maybe even use visual images, so to explain better what has happened and what can change and how it can change, and give options and how it can change, and give options and give ways out of where the woman feels bad. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Maria. Ooh. So I think the stakes are high. A lot of wishes, and yeah, don't ever make assumption that still lingers on. Don't ever make assumptions, and don't be judgmental was another piece that I take with me. Thanks. So Zoia, would you like to summarize now the doc?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about like questions that were addressed to us, and I'm not going to take it like in ideal shape. I'll tell you how we really think, because we all know how to address it proper way, but we don't really often do it. And it was really useful to listen to you, and also to how to address it proper way, but we don't really often do it. And it was really useful to listen to you, and also to Maria representing all of you. So the first question that we got is how to address sexual health in your consultation. And the majority of us think that it's important to normalize, representing all of you. So the first question that we got is how to address sexual health in your consultation. And the majority of us think that it's important to normalize this issue. So, for example, the majority of patients face problems with sexual health. Do you feel comfortable to talk about it now? And what we also discussed, several doctors think that when they face, when patients answers, I don't want to talk about it, or become to be ashamed, then a doctor himself or ashamed of the topic. So maybe it's good for you as a patient to know that doctors are ready to talk about it, but they also need some feedback and openness from your side. About what is your favorite opening line, you already mentioned that it's important for us to talk to patients, and it's always important to normalize the topic. At which time points do you address the topic, and that's differ a lot. Some of us say that it's important, and that's totally go together with Kathrin thought that we should just repeatedly ask it, and at some point it becomes continue that. Some of us think that it depends on the type of a cancer, like for example, if it's a cervical cancer, then it's better to talk before the treatment, and if it's some other type of cancer, maybe it's better to take it after the treatment. So doctors also vary it a lot, and unfortunately, each health status and relationship status being important for that topic, and that's unfortunately yes. It depends on the country. In certain countries, for example, I work in Sweden, and for us, having a patient 98 years old talking about, oh, couldn't reach orgasm anymore, it's absolutely normal. But in certain Eastern countries, for example, the limit is 60 years, and certain doctors think that after 60 years, it's that is the bottom, that's it, and after that, the next day, after birth, it stopped. So it's also really depends on a sort of thing that after 60 years, it's that is the bottom, that's it, and after that, the next day, after birth, it stopped. So it's also really depends on a social background. Also about health status, we discussed it, and it's really common that doctors afraid that to hurt a patient when, for example, a person is undergoing operational chemotherapy treatment, etc., to bring up this question because they don't want to hurt. They don't want to say oh yeah, health issue. So it's putting a cherry on top of a cake. So it's also an issue, and also stigma around economical income. Maybe it's also not the most important when you have some economical issues. If so, how is the background? Pretty actually mentioned that before. So if it's older patient, maybe patient over 90, let's say, people prefer not to address, and etc. What is also really important, and I think it's also important for you to know, that open-minded, new generation, etc. But sometimes young specialists feel also uncomfortable. Like, for example, you're 25 years old, young doctor, asking like 90 years old lady about sexual life. So it's more like about, you know, this age difference and also gender differences in some countries. So we want you really to be more, to have more acceptance to doctors of different gender, doctors of different age. It's like, it's a hard topic, like not for me, not for us, but like for many doctors it's a hard topic. For me, not for us, but like for many doctors it's a hard topic. And let's help each other, like to make it, like normalize it as much as possible. And what makes you feel uncomfortable or uncomfortable discussing sexual health with your patients? Again, it's an age difference. It's a feeling of being age difference. It's a feeling of being inappropriate, of hurting a patient, and also like this feedback from patients. So doctors don't want to like get some aggression or something like that. So I think that's what we came to during our 15 minutes discussion. I know that there are a lot to cover, but I think the main message from our table is that many patients are uncomfortable, many doctors are uncomfortable, but we both sides, and don't be afraid of asking 25 years old male doctor about that, because he would be happy to talk about it. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zoia. Thanks for summarizing. For me here, also the take home is we have to normalize it. And for me, it was a big change happened when we just put on some big posters on the wall of our outpatient clinic about sexual health, sexual intimacy, just to signal to our patient, hey, listen, we put a huge poster on there. We have booklets everywhere. We just give the signal, this is normal. If you want to address it, you are fine. We are all open for that. So that might also help a little bit just to signal and to show it. So thank you to all to work together. I think this was a great workshop. Bring ideas together. It was a pleasure to be here, and have a nice afternoon. Or Iko, I give back to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think it was really valuable for all of us, and we are waiting for the final results of the survey. Really wants their data if it's possible. So we work on that, and also we really want to have a sexual health brochure. And I'm very happy that some of you already has it, so please, if it is in English, send it to us and we can somehow cooperate with the brochure together. And if any of you has some idea or anything you want to add on this topic, please come and do that. So next year will be also the quality of life series about it's a continuity of life series about it's a continuity of sexual health. So thank you for the whole day, for everybody. And please don't forget that we will have the cooking session. And Evie, okay, super. So 5:20 at the hotel lobby. So come and let's enjoy a cooking session together.